Hey guys, welcome back to Gfinity, live from London, UK. I'm joined by Admirable and Caldi. Caldi just casted that last match. You doing okay, man?
Yeah,
you need a Red Bull or 4?
Just has some coffee. I'm rolling, yeah.
All right, that's good. And of course, Admirable, how did you enjoy that match? You got to sit out there in the sidelines.
Yeah, I mean, long matches are always something you're going to see when you have a lot of control versus control, but a lot of high-level stuff was going on, and a lot of tough decisions that the players are having to make back and forth, and that's really one of the biggest tests of Hearthstone is those long control matches.
It's live coach, and he's not called rope coach for no reason, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he does tend to bring those control decks and think out the turns for sure. So his series will be quite long.
Yeah, I'm just sad he didn't bring the Mech Warrior, man. He's been destroying a couple of leagues with it online. He just didn't bring it to offline tournaments, but maybe it's not perfected yet. Maybe Black Rock Mountain or a certain pocket in the metagame can develop.
Maybe he's promoting some sort of Axe Flinger version or something, to go for next level.
Dude,
Warrior.
Axe Flinger is a really sick, underrated card. Until people realize it, like I was showing Tice when I was staying with him in a couple of days in the Netherlands, the power of Axe Flinger. And then he brought it to NVIDIA match, I think, or his Ding It match, and he won with it. I was like, yeah, it's really good.
Well, that's one
Axe Flinger is sick.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that's most interesting about that card is stuff like Inner Rage and Cruel Taskmaster.
Right.
When you have them in your hand, you're so often using them as effects to deal 1 damage to something your opponent has and regaining tempo and trying to utilize that tempo. But when you have Axe Flinger, those cards turn into 4 damage effects, like Cruel Taskmaster getting a 2/2 and then dealing 4 damage, and Inner Rage being 0 mana and dealing 4 damage. Those are very, very strong burn cards.
Like Soulfire.
Yeah, it's something that's really common.
Like, what? I'm a hunter?
Something that's really common in those in other card games. The strategies like that isn't the quality of the burn spells you have. It's just how many burn spells you have. Because eventually, if you have enough of them, almost regardless of how bad they are, you can build some powerful strategies with it.
Well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, guys. I mean, I do know that we can theory craft about Axe Flinger all day, and I'd personally love it. Hitting the face is fun. But we have a really good match where I'm sure we're going to see plenty of face between these guys. We got a Korean player, Taeng, up against the Sultanad himself, the creator of Tempo Store, man of Hearthstone. It's Reynad. It's going to be a fun one because I think if this series goes the way that maybe how all 3 of us will predict, or maybe Reynad's not as prepared as he should be, and maybe the fact that Taeng is unknown, he's a Korean player who might be playing just like unabashed, shameless face decks, right? And just like, because that's what Koreans love. Koreans love being aggressive sometimes. Then maybe we'll see like an upset and we'll get a golden interview later on. So that's what I'm looking forward to, man.
You just want it to be like the absolute just lowest of the low point. Like, I've been traveling a lot. I'm really tired.
He's tired.
And then, of course, he just faced me all 3. That's what he's looking forward to the most.
That'd be hilarious, man.
Well, it would be.
Part of the fun.
There is something to be noted about the amount of travel that he's been doing, though. I mean, he just came back from, he went from Seat Story back home to back here.
Yeah, the Firebat route. That's what Firebat did, too.
Yeah, he was home for 19 hours, he said to me the other day when I was talking to him. That much travel really does weigh on your ability to make perfect decisions. So to see that influenced by his deck building and choosing something more aggressive, that wouldn't surprise me. But as far as Taeng is concerned, like you mentioned that Koreans like to be aggressive, but they're aggressive a lot of times in unique ways. You don't always see it just be early aggression. It's just weird combos. Like at Kranich, for instance, at Worlds, he played the Raging Worgen combo, and basically no one was playing that sort of deck. It wouldn't surprise me to see something very unique and interesting from him, and at the same time, Reynad choosing to go with more aggressive strategies.
I think a thing to consider with Taeng is hasn't been traveling as much, but the travel from Korea is really, really long and exhausting. So I think that maybe a thing we can consider, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I still, traveling a lot now versus normal, it's a lot worse now because there's also new cards coming out. So you have to test them, immediately. So he may not have a lot of experience with the new cards, so that can play a big role, I think.
I just wonder how much that has the external factors have an impact on the actual game itself, the deck preparation, because it seems like lineups are dictating the outcome of these series a lot more than maybe the individual plays themselves. As long as you play them reasonably well, it seems like Firebat's lineup, I think, carried him throughout the entire series. He just got really good matchups throughout the entire thing. And Life Coach, almost the same exact thing going into the second series. Maybe this time will be different. We actually have an update on how the groups have panned out thus far, because there's actually a lot of stuff going on. There's 2 stages here at Gfinity. So Zozas did defeat Kroba, even though he lost to Firebat. So that means Zozas goes into second place at that group. Of course, Firebat was able to advance, and as you saw on stream, and that's a pretty cool opportunity. Oh, wait. Sorry, I misspoke. Kroba then defeated Zozas in the match. So Kroba lost his Zosas initially. Sorry, I read that I actually misread that.
Well, that's one of the three, it's one of the 3-player groups, and so this is one that's unique. Not having the third player, it's these guys had to rematch to decide who's going to be the second person to advance the groups.
That's right.
So, we saw Zosas, he didn't quite get his revenge match versus Firebat, and then Kroba did get his revenge match.
Yeah, so Kroba advanced, and he's the guy who said, hey, I'm coming here to have fun, so maybe it might not be as important as advancing, but he did.
Another thing to consider is that Zosas, who got second place last time, is now out of the tournament. A really sad thing. Yeah. Especially after, beating Kroba in the first match. So it's quite sad.
I mean, that's what you got to do, man. You got to be the best every time. You can't just be the best once. As you saw, RDU did end up winning his series there, and Faramir faced off against Airbrush. And then going to Group C, we're still waiting on Reynad versus Taeng, and then the winner and losers will separate accordingly. This is a double elimination group where 2 advance. It's best of 5 conquest, so pretty straightforward from this point on. The winner of this will go and play Life Coach. The loser faces Bunny Muffins.
Looking at the last bracket, Movies yesterday, he was asked which player did he fear most in his group, and he said it was Airbrushed.
Right.
But Airbrushed and Movits both lost their first matches in their groups. And, RDU kind of gave him the look. We were sitting around in the player lounge.
More specifically, Movits said, RDU tilts too easily. And it's like, he thinks RDU is the easiest opponent in the group, and he lost to him. So I think RDU is definitely vindicated. And plus, I know Radu tried really hard for this tournament. He practiced a ton. He laddered so much, and he prepped for hours. So I think he's one of the threats to take it all when he's like that, when he's on fire.
Yeah, he's always a threat, I think.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we have one more group in Group D. Powder took out IB Dutch Boy. And then, of course, this happened yesterday off stream. Powder defeated Orange, and Orange narrowly lost to Dutch Boy. So that's our top 8 so far, as Dutch Boy and Powder were able to go through. Really fun stuff so far, but I'm looking forward to this match a lot just because I want to see what Korea has to offer. People consider Korea as one of the weakest regions in Hearthstone, at least the one that's broadcasted. I mean, I guess you could take the Antarctica region. There's no one really good there. But when I look at the totem pole in terms of the power rankings of regions, I put Korea towards the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sort of interesting you say that. We don't get to see too much of Korea, really, outside of the OGN stuff.
Right.
There's not that much of it that's broadcast. But what I've seen so far, it's been really strong. Kranich, of course, that guy's an excellent player. But the amount of quality from Korea so far, it seems like it's been very limited into the number of players. And when you have that happening, the practice pool, when it's that small, you're going to see the players within that practice pool. They will struggle a little bit because you need a deeper practice pool of players to play against. There's no shortage of players from NA or EU to practice with. And in Korea, maybe you are seeing that shortage.
It's true. This is one of the few games where Korea is lumped up to other regions, Taiwan and Asia. Versus other games, Korea has its own region because it's so competitive, right, when they have their own top of the ladders.
I think a thing to consider is our practice with both Kranich and the SK player... And
Reynad
and
Masan.
It's been a while, but
they're just pulling every Korean player I know.
They're excellent players, both of them. And
Magic Gaming.
Actually, to see both Reynad and Kranich, not do that well in the Korean leagues tells me that the Korean leagues is going to be quite strong. They play excellent Hearthstone, but they feel sometimes like the decks are maybe 1 week behind Europe, which tends to put them a bit behind, but the play is excellent, so when it comes to decision making there.
Right. Actually, I know Doa was talking to me. Doa, the commentator, he was showing me some of the deck lists that the guys were playing. I was like, dude, we were playing this a month ago. Where's all your updated tech that everyone's playing with? It seems like you just get destroyed if you played it. Those kinds of decks now. Of course, it could be one of those things where OGN required them to submit weeks ago. And as a result, they submitted old decks and they're playing with it. But if he's able to bring updated lists, I mean, the Koreans show that execution. I mean, sometimes they can just play the same exact thing and do the right plays as well.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is just the amount of broadcasting you see. Mm-hmm. When you don't have as much of it, you're going to see less overall talent because, again, there's a lot of, as you said, there's a lot of fantastic play, but just not enough broadcast.
Okay, now what's important is not just what Taeng brings, but his opponent, Reynad. How are we feeling about his chances overall in this series? I know Reynad will probably generalize and say it's a 50-50, any excuse that he'd rather just flip coins or do rock, paper, scissors. But realistically, what are we polling in terms of percentage of predictions here?
Well, frankly, I think it is pretty close to 50-50. That's sort of the nature of card games. Now, where you get that edge is typically going to be in deck building. You know, everything else aside from that, it's just, I mean, the cards can fall any way. So given the fact that he's just been traveling so much, I imagine Taeng has probably had a little bit more time to prepare for this matchup, and so I would tend. This is not knowing the deck list by any means yet. I'm assuming you have some insight into Reynad's.
I'm all right,
but I don't really know anything about Taeng. I'm pretty sure I've casted him once before, but it was some small event. I just don't remember it very well. But in terms of deck building, I would tend to give the edge, I think, to Taeng simply because he's had the time to prepare for it.
I'm thinking like looking at without knowing the decks, it feels like Reynad is going to be. I think he's going to be playing better as he's not going to be as nervous. He's had more experience with this sort of thing. But if they bring the same decks, I'd say I'd give the Reynad the edge. But I would think that Taeng has had more time to prepare and I would be bringing the stronger decks. So I'd give it about 50-50 if the decks went that way. I'd say. Yeah.
So you're not picking a player. You're just.
I think
this is the analysis corner where you're not allowed to have no opinion. You're forced
I think slide that to Taeng maybe.
Wow, everyone's doubting the Ray-Bay. All right, well, you know what? I guess in this case, I'm going to have to pick the Salt King, man. I'm just going to say Reynad is at his best when he makes around 5 to 7 excuses on average prior to a match, and he gave me about 5 of them. So it's usually the right around number because then he wins and he has no explanation other than say that he played well, but he refuses to admit it because then it becomes this thing where he builds up expectation. So I think Reynad's got this.
Picking your boss is a bold move.
I just pinged him for 1. Don't worry, I'm not 100 just yet. So that wraps up our pregame analysis. We're going to give it over to our casters and see what they have to think.
Thank you so much, guys. This is Nimsh and Aqua Blood. And what a match ahead of us. Taeng versus Reynad. Let's look at the deck list. Like, Reynad brought Hunter, Warlock, and Mage.
Yeah, we know Reynad for playing the Zoo. He's very popular for playing Zoo. Mage, he played some interesting mages recently, actually. He played that Echoes of Medivh kind of value mage. Him and Gara played it in a tournament. I can't quite remember which one it was. And we have Hunter, so that could be anything. That could be mid-Hunter, face-Hunter. But the player to talk about is Taeng, really. We don't know anything about him or what he's playing. What do you think he's going to bring from like the Korean scene?
Well, so we know that he is bringing Paladin and Warrior Mage, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, again, I'm really excited to see Taeng play because I got some info from the Korean side of the stage, and he's not that known. Like, he is a surprise factor. So he came here to Europe from Korea, bringing his own brews. And when I'm thinking about Korean players, I'm thinking about Kranich bringing his own specific decks, like the Combo Warrior for BlizzCon. So right now, I expect anything from Taeng. Like, Warrior can be the combo Green Patron deck, right? Like, Paladin, well, there's not that much wiggle room in Paladin, but still, he can bring his own twist to the deck. And the last deck, Mage, that can be anything.
No, that'd be, yeah, like you said, Mage can be anything. Mage is one of those classes right now which has access to so many different types of decks. But the Paladin could surprise us. I mean, Savitsa's been playing with a more aggressive Paladin recently, and that's been doing really well for him for some reason.
Hobgoblin Paladin, actually, it worked for him, kind of, right? Like, for some time it worked, but then he actually, did he lose with that deck?
Can't quite remember, but he did upset someone. I think it was in Kinguin Pro League with, I think it was Frezza, actually. He beat Frezza with that in his lineup. But speaking of Korea is like start to make it splash on the Western world with Kranich and Reynad both being picked up by big esports teams. SK Gaming for Reynad and Dignitas for Kranich. So they're now starting to move into the Western world and the Western Hearthstone scene with these big esports signings.
And now Taeng is standing in front of Reynad. If he defeats Reynad, that's one of the most recognized heads of Hearthstone being cut. And but on the other hand, he had to travel here from Korea, and Reynad stayed in Europe. Like, normally, I would say Reynad had to travel the distance from US, Taeng had to travel the distance from Asia, but now Reynad didn't have to travel that much.
Yeah, fatigue is definitely something that can be taken into account with these big tournaments. Players traveling from all around the world, 20-hour flights and whatnot, and they do take their toll. Especially if you can't don't sleep very well on a plane, for example, or something. So maybe that might be a factor. Or maybe Taeng just doesn't care. He's fine. He's well rested. He's had a day. So maybe that won't affect him.
Oh yeah, that's really interesting to see. Also, like, Reynad is really experienced with tournaments, so he played many tournaments before. He is sitting in his comfort zone. In that seat, he was there I don't even know how many times, but more than 20 for sure.
Yeah, all this experience from tournaments offline and online does really pay off in the long run, especially when you start playing in these events where you have players who have qualified, who have just like started coming onto the big stage. These players like Reynad, who have a lot of experience in this, do have a bit of an edge sometimes because their confidence is going to be high. They're not going to be as nervous, whereas the other player, for example, he's got the whole world watching him. There's a big spotlight on him, and this match will most likely mean a lot more to him because if he does beat this pro player, people will be asking questions. Who is this guy? Like he did this, he's done that. So yeah, I think Taeng, you know, he can prove himself in this match.
Also, the winner of this match is going to face Life Coach. So if Taeng wins versus Reynad, wins versus Life Coach, and gets into the top 8, that will be a baptism through fire for him.
Wow, yeah, that'll definitely show that the Korean scene is definitely picking up, and you know that could bring a very promising future for Taeng. You know, we might see him elsewhere if he starts taking down these like giants of Hearthstone.
But on the other hand, Reynad has an edge. Like he is in Europe, and he was in Europe before. He has experience, and with his lineups, Hunter, Warlock, and Mage, I think that Warlock can actually be a Zoo. Like Reynad is the original creator of the Zoo deck. Like there was Warlock aggro before, but the Zoo is Reynad. So right now, who is the best player, the best creator to actually innovate and and bring a new Zoo breed to the fold?
Well, this is it. Zoo is his deck, and Zoo is just really picked up since Gang Boss has come around. I mean, Ladder's been swarming with Zoo, so it definitely puts Reynad back in his comfort zone with this deck. So he's probably very confident with this Warlock deck. As for Hunter and Mage, the Mage could really be anything. I mean, Mech Mage is another deck a bit like Zoo in a way. It's very aggressive, fights for board a lot. But also, like I said earlier, we had that Echoes Mage. So it's going to be very interesting what he brings. But we're going into the game now, and Taeng has got his Paladin, and that's 2 loot hoarders. In Paladin.
The Paladin is...
oh, no, it's the bottom one.
Yeah,
sorry,
the Paladin is the Juggler, Shielded Minibot, Quartermaster, Coghammer, and an incredible start. Coin one of those, and then follow up with Juggler, Coghammer. I think you can mulligan away Quartermaster, but other than that, it looks amazing.
So what?
It looks like Freeze Mage. If I'm looking at double loot hoarder, I'm thinking Freeze Mage.
Oh, we need to see these cards. I want to know what deck he's running. But looking at Taeng's hand, you know, like you say, probably throw away the Quartermaster. Everything else looks pretty decent.
You want, like, what's the card you want instead of a Quartermaster? Master for Battle.
Master for Battle would be excellent. Synergize that Knife Juggler. You don't really want a True Silver. You've got the Cog Hammer now to play with. So maybe like a Piloted Shredder, something to help his curve out a little bit more. As for Reynad, we don't really know what he's running yet because we haven't seen the rest of the mulligan come through. So we can't really make a judgment on what he needs. But we do. We're going to see an Ice Lance come off the top there. So it's most certainly going to be Freeze Mage, I imagine.
Oh yeah, that's definitely Freeze Mage from Reynad. Now I'm curious which version of Freeze Mage, because we see double loot hoarders. I would believe this is the standard cookie cutter. Maybe there is a Torisan, no mulligans, just a standard build, which is really good. And now I have to ask you, like, what's the matchup? Like, who has an edge here? Paladin? Like, look in this hand, Paladin got everything. He even got the Master for Battle. But then overall, without like not looking at the hand, who has an edge in the matchup, Paladin or Freeze Mage?
Overall, if Reynad draws a lot of his board clear, a lot of his board removal, I think he'll probably go in Reynad's favor, unless Taeng is drawing stuff like Lay on Hands, anti-killbot, waiting for that Alex Straza to come down, and then just spamming heal on himself to get him quite healthy. But even then, a mage can still have enough burst in their hand to deal with a lot of healing, so it'll very much come down to the kind of like the key cards in each deck, which will kind of decide where this matchup is going to go.
I certainly agree with that. And the key cards for Paladin are Loatheb and Lay on Hands. By the way, it is really interesting that Taeng didn't coin out Shielded Minibot. He doesn't know which mage is this. He still doesn't know which mage it is, because it can be a Mech Mage. A Mech Mage missing at 1-drop, playing Mad Scientist in 2. When he sees Loot Hoarder, he might still not know which mage is that.
Well, that's the beauty of Mage right now. It utilizes the Mad Scientist in most of its variations, and from turn 2, just seeing a Scientist, this could be Freeze, Tempo, Mech. Like, it could be anything, really. So, yeah, he's going to need to gain a bit more information, I think, through this game before he can decide. So this sequence will probably reveal a little bit more. If it's an Ice Barrier, but if it's an Ice Block, he's still doesn't know what's going on as far as his deck.
Right now, he still doesn't know which secret it is. So do you play around Mirror Entity? You might actually have to. That's a nice barrier. So that's all right, I guess. Like, he will want to draw into the Ice Block at some point, but having a nice barrier early can prolong the game, will buy him some time. But for Taeng, the decision is like, all right, I haven't seen Cogmaster. I've seen Mad Scientist, and there is a secret now. I know Mech Mage is really popular.
And it's Reynad playing as well. He favors the Zoo deck, and Mech Mage has some similarities. So he must be thinking like, maybe this is Mech Mage. You know, can I risk giving him a Live Juggler, or can I risk giving him an Aldo, for example? So he's got to decide where to go from here. But he needs to play something.
I think the play is actually, well, the best play, knowing that this is a nice barrier, is Juggler, and then, well, you probably don't use the coin. He might just go with the Juggler here.
So he's going to test this secret, I imagine, unless he decides to coin out the True Silver. Oh, and he just goes for the Muster for battle. So this is actually a very safe way to test this secret, because he doesn't give a minion through the Mirror Entity, and he can test for an Ice Barrier at the same time.
Now he knows everything as well. Like, he knows it's Freeze Mage. It's just the moment of clarity is upon him.
And that's a good draw for Reynad there. Only 1 power minions on the board. And he decides to go for the clear. I guess he's afraid of that coin and that Quartermaster. He doesn't want him building a couple of free frees straight away off the bat.
Especially because he doesn't have a clear. He doesn't have Blizzard or a Nova Doomsayer. If there would be a Quartermaster, that would be troublesome. But there is the Pilot of the Shredder, which is an amazing card as well. And Reynad doesn't really have much removal. Like, he has draw. He has lots of draw. 3 cards that can provide him cards, but then...
I mean, he has 16 armor of sustain there with the double Ice Barrier. I mean, we've seen 1 armor chip away, but that's a bulky bit of health to keep him going. And with the Acolyte of Pain and the Arcane Intellect in his hand, he does have the card draw available to him, so he does have time. These Ice Barriers are really going to stall out things for this Paladin, because they don't have a lot of burst. But like you said, the Pilot of Shredder is a good card here. It's going to stay on the board for quite a while. And like you said, Reynad doesn't have a way to deal with it. So he could get quite a bit of value out of this Shredder if he decides to play it.
And he needs that value. Like, the strategy for Paladin is just to get the damage early.
Move quickly.
Get as much damage as possible in the face of your opponent before they stabilize, before they set up an Ice Block, before they play Alexstrasza. When they do it, you do want to use the key cards, but you do want to have in a position to win the game in 1-2 turns.
And he still creates a threatening board here for Quartermaster with those 2 1-1s remaining. So that must be playing on Reynad's mind now. Is a Quartermaster going to come down? I mean, he'll get 6 damage next turn off those 2 minions.
Reynad can actually assess that if there will be a Quartermaster, there was a coin. So coin Quartermaster was a better play than Pilot Shredder. I believe it was. Because you still kill the Loot Hoarder and you have 6 power on board you can extract. So we can assume that there's no Quartermaster, but then the Quartermaster can be top deck.
I mean, he's pretty healthy right now. The Acolyte of Pain might be decent. Because he'll get 1 card from the Pain, and then potentially another card, unless he just wants to fully utilize it. But he draws a Doomsayer with double Fireball, but still nothing to keep the board at bay yet. He hasn't seen any Frost Novas, any Blizzards yet, so this is what he's probably fishing for.
Yeah, you can play the Loot Hoarder again, so that you could cycle it into a card and something has to trade into it. Oh, like the weapon attack, let's say. You want more cards being Freeze Mage here. Just playing the Doomsayer isn't an option because it's just going to die and you want to clear board with it.
And you want to keep the Foulnosphere burst. I don't think Reynad's at the stage right now where he's that desperate for more card. I mean, he's got a Loot Hoarder, it does the same thing, so I don't think we're going to see that going anywhere. But he decides to go for the Pain. So that might mean he is a bit worried about the Quartermaster.
Yeah, like instead of like playing Loot Hoarder and drawing another card, he hopes to top deck something. Well, he's not dead yet and he's far from dying with the 2nd Ice Barrier in hand. And he will draw many cards anyway. He has the Acolyte of Pain next turn. So I believe like Paladin would just... It's Taeng, what do you do?
Well, he's got Cogmaster. He can give a bit of protection to one of his minions from the inevitable board clear that follow, but I don't think he wanted that 1-1 to get it.
Oh man, this is preventing the 1-1 from dying. So it's not that bad. Reynad can't ping it anymore.
Well, if he was playing around Quartermaster, he's just got a 1-1 with Taunted Divine Shield that could be buffed, so.
There's an Alexstrasza pickup for Reynad, but this turn might be just Ice Barrier and Acolyte of Pain. Is there anything else you can see here?
I think maybe Ice Barrier and Loot Hoarder, so that he probably wants a ping on his Acolyte of Pain.
Let the pain speak.
But it does take away a bit of the damage here if he decides to use his Knife Chugger to clear this up.
The thing is, like, this is more mana efficient. Like, you're still drawing 1 card from Acolyte of Pain, and you spend 3 mana, so you can play Loot Hoarder, let's say, maybe next turn. Or like, turn after that.
And the 1/1 trades pretty efficiently into the Loot Hoarder anyway, and it stays there with the taunt.
Even a weapon attack.
Or even a weapon attack, like you said, yeah.
Let me.
But right now it's like tanking, let's say this Acolyte is tanking 3 points of damage, and you still draw a card.
But he's got that Alex Straza sitting there waiting. He's only got a few turns till he can use it, and with 2 fireballs, he just needs to draw a Frostbolt or something, and things will look really good for Reynad. He decides to use the 4 damage there from the Shredder.
Oh, there is a Flame Strike. That's the first clear he needs. Reynad looking pretty comfortable here.
This is quite a tough turn, I think. I mean, he could just drop the Sylvanas just for some power on the board, but what's he considering here? I mean, the heals from the True Silver are not really going to make much of a difference until Alex has played.
Well, I like Black Knight because it's creating a body on board, which is a 4/5, it's not going to die. Sylvanas is fine as well. But then with Sylvanas, Reynad can just play the Doomsayer and Fireball Sylvanas. We've seen this before. Using Sylvanas to give the Doomsayer to your opponent.
Yeah, that's true, but he has just drew a Frostbolt, so he has a considerable amount of burst in his hand. And with the Alex Straza sitting there as well, it's only a matter of time before Reynad gets to throw that Alex down and start throwing fireballs around. So Taeng really needs to draw something here, like a heal, or he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
Well, he has a True Silvers, so the first True Silver will offer 8 points of damage, and the second True Silver can heal a bit when Alex Straza is basically getting dropped. And you know, you just need to escape the 15 health mark. If you attack one with True Silver, you could get up to 17, and then Alex Straza, let's say, with reduced attack from Aldor, is not killing you, and you have 1 more turn to win.
Yeah, that's true, and he decides to go with a Flame Strike there. Doesn't quite clear the board. He still has quite a few minions sitting around. But again, Taeng didn't really draw anything that useful. The True Silver might come down here, but I think the Black Knight is probably the best now. You've just seen a Flame Strike. Chuck 4 or 5 body on the board. Might be a bit safe. Might get Blizzard, but at least you won't be expecting a second Flame Strike if you've just seen one.
The problem the Paladin is facing is not enough burst. Like, you want to grind the mage down, but you weren't able to actually kill everything because Reynad was playing minions. And right now, Reynad being at 17, it's looking pretty good, even though he doesn't really have a way to clear the board, and he doesn't top deck anything here. Well, alright, he actually has the play I mentioned before, like just stealing, giving the Doomsayer.
And he didn't even have to use a Fireball this turn either, which is really good, so he keeps that burst in his hand, and he did draw another Icelands. So Falnas, Frostbolt, Icelands, Icelands. Oh, and there's the Ice Block as well, wow.
There's an Ice Block, but it's not, doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, Paladin's never going to be able to do that much damage, especially with no board, so Reynad's looking really comfortable here. And obviously use the True Silvers, keep trying to chip away at him, but he's not going to get the heal when Alex Straza comes down. But we do see the other True Silver in hand, so something to consider.
Oh, you can also, like, if you want to be super safe, you can go Antonida's Ice Block, but I don't think there's need for that. Alex Straza here, you know the True Silver just got used. You hope there's no heal bot or lay on hands.
We do see a big Game Hunter in his hand. He has a way to deal with this, but...
How much damage is there with, like, the Icelands, double Icelands Falnas?
That's 5. A lot.
So 6, 8, 10. This is 5, 10, 14, 21 damage from the whole thing.
And he does get an opportunity to play the Ice Block next turn.
No, like, Reynad wins right now.
Just right now, does he?
21 points of damage from Falnas, Fireball,
Oh, right, yeah,
Frostbolt,
true,
double
yeah,
Icelands. Alright, so Reynad is going to take game number 1 with his Freeze Mage, a pretty well-played game, nicely executed. Paladin struggled. Taeng wasn't able to develop board enough to be able to push for damage, and he didn't have the heals. Like, he had the True Silver, but 21 points of damage coming from Reynad on 1 turn with the Falnas, double Icelands, Frostbolt, Fireball combo.
It was going to be a tough match for Taeng anyway, just because of the matchup. And like you said, he didn't. We were saying earlier that it was those key cards that will make a big difference in that matchup. And unfortunately, Taeng didn't draw any of them.
He might not even play them. Well, he was surely playing them in hands, but he might not play the Lothab. Like Lothab is coming in and out of decks, and because like there's Torisan now, so Torisan people tend to play more greedy decks, and but on the other hand, from Taeng's perspective, I didn't see that many greedy cards. Like he played the standard list. He had Black Knight, which is a conditional card, but then nothing really did surprise me. Maybe Kalkhammer and Black Knight is not traditional, but it's just 2 cards.
Yeah, they're kind of like the optional picks you would, would take in Paladin, because you've got like a few slots in there you can kind of switch up with things. So I wonder what he's predicting with that Black Knight. I mean, it's a card that kind of dips in and out of favor very often. So he might have had a read on what people are playing, and that's why he put it in there. We just won't know. But we'll see that Paladin list again, so we might see some other things come from it. So what do you think Reynad's going to pick next?
Well, he has the Warlock and he has the Hunter. Both decks are good, whatever version he has. And I would expect Zoo from Warlock being a Zoo and Hunter being the Face Hunter, because those decks are super powerful right now. But I would not be surprised if he is playing a Handlock or like a Demon Handlock with Demons. But on the other hand, with Taeng, I am really curious if Taeng did his research, because you know, like Taeng is playing in Korea. I believe he's playing on the Asian servers, and the metagame might be a bit different. Like we don't talk about it that much because EU and NA are really similar with regards to what people play. But then the metagame on the Asian server might be a bit different. So if he is not, like, you know, he qualified, he played really well, he won versus those people, and he's here. And maybe he studied his opponent a bit, but maybe he didn't. And he just brought the decks that feel good to him. And he might be surprised by some cards.
Yeah, there's definitely a point to be made with the meta. I mean, look at the Chinese priest, for example, the one that ran Death Lords and Light Bombs. I mean, that came from China, so that deck must have been doing pretty well on the ladder, where we would never have seen that deck unless we had any knowledge of the Asian scene. So it's more than likely that Taeng has a lot more knowledge on our scene than Reynad might have on their scene, because our scene's so much in the spotlight with televised events and with pro players. It's much easier to keep track of that, whereas with the Asian scene, it's still developing. So you'd have to do kind of a lot of research yourself to get that knowledge. So maybe that's Taeng's advantage here, is having the knowledge of our scene, whereas we might not have the knowledge as his.
Oh yeah, definitely. Research is a very important part of Hearthstone. And the second game has started. We have Taeng taking his Paladin again, and Reynad getting the Face Hunter. And I can tell, because I play a lot of Face Hunter in my time.
Yeah, I've played a lot of Face Hunter too. And that Quick Shot, a new card from BlackRock coming into this hand. I mean, a lot of people have discussed this card within my community as, was it necessary for Hunter to have this card created?
Quick Shot?
Yeah.
Oh, obviously, yes. It was really necessary because, you know, at some point when you go for face with everything, you run out of cards. So you need something to draw, right?
Right. Do they really need it, though? That's the big question. I mean, one thing interesting about Quick Shot is if Control Hunter ever came around, it might not be too bad in, say, like a control Hunter deck, because it's a bit like a Dark Bomb in a way, but with a bit extra to it. So, you know, I mean, I don't think it's a card that just stays with Face Hunter. I think it can be played elsewhere.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just a good removal card for Hunter. But then it fits in Face Hunter because you do empty your hand.
And you recharge it, yeah.
So what do you think about the hand for Taeng here, for Paladin?
It's looking a little bit clunky with the Dr. Boom, but the True Silver will help clear up the board. And the Consecrate, obviously, is very good for him, but he definitely wanted to see like zombie chows or mini bots, just something like straight away, something immediate on the board to just challenge it. This is all coming a bit later, and it might be a bit too late. You know what Face Hunter's like.
Oh, there is Lothab. So he didn't draw the Lothab last game, which was a very important card. From my experience, this matchup is really good for Face Hunter. It depends on a couple of cards from Paladin. Like if Paladin runs Sludge Belchers, Paladin runs Anti-Heal Bot, and obviously the openings with Zombie Chow, Shield, and Mini Bot, as you mentioned. But if you don't see those cards, Hunter has a great time. Like you have great time, great fun. You just go for face. They try to build up a board to kill your minions. They unleash the hounds. Maybe you even get a juggler. and you just continue with your game plan uninterrupted, and they even help you to kill them.
Yeah, and the thing with Paladin, in the mid-range variant, it can be kind of tweaked to face mid-hunter, maybe like put 2 zombie chows in, for example. But mid-Paladin kind of, when you build it, it's got to kind of have an agenda, I think, of what it wants to beat. If you wanted to beat decks like face hunter, for example, you do need to put in these 2 zombie chows, but we haven't seen any yet, so I'm not sure. I don't think it's aimed in that direction yet, but we haven't seen enough cards. But like you said, it's just such a rough time for Paladin, because you can just do what you want with Face Hunter. And the Owls especially, those Sludge Belchers might not even matter because of Owl.
Oh yeah. On the other hand, I want to mention that Reynad's hand is really bad. Like, he missed a 1-drop. His 2-drop was great, but then he basically missed... Alright, he has the Animal Companion, so it's not that terrible.
And he
gets a Huffer. It improved immensely now.
You just got like extra 4 damage, so yeah, it did improve a lot. Maybe you'll trade up here. Just
you do trade.
Definitely.
You want to protect your Huffer. You want to force a weapon attack, or you want, like, there's not always Consecration, but even if there is Consecration, you're still happy about it.
Yeah, it doesn't clear up Hound. So yeah, he's in a good spot here. I mean, oh, and we got some Challenger bracket update here. Airbrush beat Movits, both players from Sweden.
So Movits eliminated from the tournament. Movits a very nice player. He started playing competitively Hearthstone like a month ago.
Yeah, he did say.
And he qualified for this tournament. Unfortunately, he's out, but we might see him in the future again. Really nice guy. Played some
From what we were told, Airbrush has a little bit of responsibility for Orange playing Hearthstone quite competitively, because they used to be Magic partners. So yeah, 2 good players there. But the Explosive Trap comes down. That's quite a good value for the Explosive Trap, because it didn't really do much on the board. But I think Taeng is a little bit behind here. That's the only problem.
Taeng is really behind. Already lost 10 points of health. He doesn't have any taunts. It's not like he can respond to whatever Reynad plays. For Reynad, there is a couple of plays now. He can play Hunter Creeper Hero Power to use the Hero Power. He can also play Leper Gnome and the Eagle Hornbow to deal some extra damage. Basically, you want to empty your hand, so you have to think, like, what do you do on turn 5?
Yeah, he's in a different situation, because some hunters, especially face hunters, before Quickshot came around, they wanted to utilize that hero power as much as possible, because they would eventually just run out of steam, and the hero power helped with that problem, because it's just 2 damage to the face, and that's your agenda anyway. But now Quickshot's about, like, you might want to just empty your hand to cycle through. I mean, if you play Quickshot on a later turn, you might get like a Wolf Rider, and that's 3 damage again, for example, and then all of a sudden you've got 6 damage, so it's a very powerful card in Face Hunter.
Oh yeah, and now this Lothab is actually not doing anything. It's just a 5/5 body that's going to trade into the small minions, not doing much damage, not doing much board presence. And Reynad can just continue going for face.
I mean, he's seen the Consecrate here. This is probably why he chose to play the Wolf Rider over, say, the Bow. It's because he just develops more of a board there, more trouble for the Lothab and the Paladin, and then he has that kind of more immediate, out of the blue, like, oh, I've got an Eagle Hornbow as well, by the way, and yeah, I think this is good to play in the Wolf Rider.
I also like how he played Leper Gnome instead of Hero Powering, because you do have to think, like, alright, Hero Power is granting me a card, kind of, because I don't have to play a card, I can play later, but then it grants me 2 points of damage, and Leper Gnome is giving me, for 1 mana, a bit more, like maybe 4, maybe 6 even, if there is no reply to the Leper Gnome. So for Taeng now, what do you do? Like, you face those Leper Nimshes and, you know, Wolf Riders.
He's just in such a tough spot. He couldn't even Aldor and play True Silver, which is really rough. I mean, he could have reduced some of the damage he'd take from trading his True Silver into one of these minions, but he's just out of time, I think. And this is what Face Hunter does. It just overwhelms you, especially a deck like Paladin.
He needs taunts, he needs the heals, and then he needs more taunts, more heals, and after that, find a way to win the game with damage. Right now he's just defending, and defending is not the best course of action against the Hunter.
No, we're looking at Reynad's hand here. He's got Kill Command, Quickshot, Eagle Hornbow. He even has an Owl, the Silencer, Belcher, but also an activator for the Kill Command, so he's not even worried about that. He still has a Kill Command that can do 5, and another Leper Gnome.
Oh, yes!
So another 2 damage sitting there that will eventually go off. It's just looking really bleak for Taeng here.
Is Reynad going to win this game on the back of his double Leper Nimsh? Possibly.
He could. I mean, he has a lot of burst potential this turn if he pleases. He's got 5 from the kill command, 3 from the Eagle Horn Bow and what he's got on board, but he decides to just take the 2 damage from the leopard, clean up the low feb there.
What's crazy is that on turn 7, if there is a Sludge Belcher, Reynad can just silence the Belcher, play kill command for 5 damage, and then play a quick shot and even
7 damage.
Yeah, that's 7 damage out of nowhere. And he has the weapons, so he possibly has 10 points of damage uninterrupted. 10 points of damage happening next turn. Whatever happens, even if the board is cleared, I don't see a way for Taeng to...
He needed something off the top there. Even a Belcher wouldn't have made a difference. He would have needed, say, an anti-heal bot just to stay in the game, but unfortunately he didn't get one. So
you know what he needed, really? He needed the previous hand from the Freeze Mage game.
Yeah, that would have been very good. He had a lot of early game pressure there. He could have fought the board at least, but unfortunately this is not going to be enough, and Reynad's going to take this game.
On the back of his Leopardome. Reynad taking game number 2, getting a 2-0 lead versus Taeng from Korea. Who is going to face Life Coach? Who is going to play versus Bunny Muffin? Is it Bunny Muffin or Bunny Muffins? I don't know.
Bunny Muffin, as far as I know. And so Reynad's got his Warlock left. And we haven't seen any of the other decks from Taeng. I would like to see maybe his Mage deck, just to see what it is.
Do you think that Taeng is actually losing on purpose to conceal his other decks? To get an edge against his next opponent?
Perhaps. I mean, that is a legitimate strategy, I suppose. If he picks Paladin now and he wins, that's great. You know, he can carry on and maybe win the series. But if he loses, he doesn't show anything else, and he's got a bit more surprises in store for his next opponent.
All right, that was an excellent reply to my joke. So Paladin, one of the decks that actually can lose 0-3. Like I've seen Paladin losing 0-3, and it's a deck that often kills itself. Like you get those clunky draws. And we've seen this game versus Reynad. Like Reynad, he missed the 1 draw, but then he was able to follow up with standard cards because Face Hunter, like every card supports the strategy. Every card is actually a good card you draw. And for Paladin, he got a really clunky hand. Do you think he just continues with the Paladin now? And because he has to win one game?
I think so. I think you just use the Paladin. Don't reveal any information to your opponents. If you do lose this game, obviously you play to win. You obviously don't play to lose here, but it's definitely a strat. It's like a backup strategy. If I lose this game, no one else knows what I'm playing yet, so at least I've got that surprise factor. And I've seen it. I've actually seen it done. I've seen it done against me actually. Some players, a player in Green Sheep actually just used Mech Mage against me for the whole thing in one tournament because he didn't want to reveal anything else to me, and I had no idea what else he had for the rest of the tournament. So I think it's a viable strategy.
Did he win in the end, or did you win in the end?
I
won.
You won in the end. All right. All right, we'll never know what Green Sheep played in that tournament, but now Reynad is playing... Oh my god, I actually missed it. What was that? What's this Warlock?
Did we just see Doomguard?
I haven't seen anything. I think
we just saw a Doomguard.
So this is a zoo. Oh, it's not a zoo.
It is a zoo. It could still be a zoo. It's got a knife juggler.
It's Reynad Zoo. Sunad.
That very old school tactic of Void Terror, because there's so many Voids now. Void Terror eating the Nerubian eggs and such, or Power Overwhelming minions. Maybe that's what he's going for here.
Void Terror is such a fun card. But still, Taeng, looking at this juggler, probably sigh of relief. Like, facing Handlock in this situation would be terrible for him. But facing Zoo and having the shielded minibot, at least he knows that he can do something. Oh,
Reynad's expression there when he drew the other Doomguard, he did not look pleased with that.
Yeah, that's a standard Reynad draw. Everybody knows that Reynad is an unlucky player.
I mean, I think he's pretty happy here with the dagger hitting the shielded minibot, but we do see the cock hammer in his hand, so it may not make that much difference.
Oh, and our shielded minibot. But then there is the cock hammer, as you said. Interesting. True Silver will be important. Like, from my experience, this matchup, from Paladin's perspective, is that you need to get Consecration at some point. Like, if you don't get a Consecration, Zoo will overrun you. Like, you are going to kill those minions, but they pump so many minions at the same time. They draw cards, so they can tap also, because you spend all your resources to just cut the board.
And all of a sudden, 2 more cards come down.
Yeah, all the time. You need like a big Consecration, maybe with equality, maybe without equality, just to get that edge. So the board is clear and you have a reset around like turn 6 or 7. You're like, all right, the board is reset, and now I can play my Tyrion into quite an empty board and then go from there.
And it's harder for Zoo to deal with that once you've cleared a lot of their board and they're just tapping for things. Because they can still draw stuff like 1-drops and 2-drops, and when you slam that Tyrion, like you said, after that big board clear, it could be a nightmare for Zoo to deal with right now.
Oh, and Ruben Egg top deck for Reynad. So he will be able to get something from that Void Terror. And this turn is not terrible as well. Like, even though Taeng had a really good start with that Coghammer and the Shield Me bot, Reynad is able to just attack into the 2-2, get a token, get Implosion. He's definitely scared of Consecration. But if there is no Consecration, he gets an edge. Implosion is 3. Almost 4. Almost 4.
Yeah, you got the extra guy from the Gambol, so you could call it 4. I mean, he doesn't draw the Consecration either, but even then, like you said, you might need to consecrate a board like this, but it's not the best consecration you can have. You want him to have some more high-value targets there, like Knife Jugglers, for example. I mean, he's just killing tokens at that point. But he gets well, still 5 now.
Those tokens are still dealing damage, and it's not like Paladin can do much about them.
But we do see the heal bot, actually, which we were talking about in the Freeze Mage game. So he does run low fab and heal bot. And, well, we have CLA on hands? I can't remember.
Not yet. No, we haven't. So it seems like the Freeze Mage game, he got really unlucky with the draws.
Yeah. So this is a tough turn.
I like a snap play, the Ruben Egg and Void Terror. I just need to think about the order, how to do it. Especially because I haven't seen Consecration.
I don't think, do you take an Imp with you as well? Just to make a bulkier
what does
Void
it
Terror?
change? You are going to have 4 attack and 1 more health. 6 health.
I mean, if he was worried, I guess he's not worried about Consecrating, so he's happy to have the more 1/1s, so just more stuff for the Paladin to deal with. And you can use them to trade in here. Yeah, that seems pretty good. So Zoo is doing its thing right now, but the one issue that could come up for Reynad soon is he does have double Doomguard Sylvanas in his hand.
Well, I guess you just try to empty your hand and you play Sylvanas. Well, right now it's really important what Taeng is going to do because he can coin his own Sylvanas into this board, and I think that's the play. Like, Sylvanas is one of the cards that will help you come back into the game.
No time
but still, there will be no good way to kill his Sylvanas right now. Like, you want to attack into something, and then you want to lose your Sylvanas to steal something. Oh, Dr. Boom! That's a very interesting card in a kind of like Zoo deck, right?
I've actually seen it cropping up in Zoo a lot more these days. I think one of an NA player on Legend was starting to run kind of like almost like a mid-rangey Zoo. So like Shredders and Dr. Boom, Sylvanas, just kind of taking a more later game approach with Zoo rather than the really aggressive one, which we're quite used to. But yeah, Dr. Boom is going to play a big role in this match, I think.
Do you... What can you do here? Do equality here? With equality, you can steal Sylvanas.
It might be worth it here, yeah.
Because you equality, you then choose silver something, and then you attack with your Sylvanas into the second minion, and you steal Sylvanas. And that might also be the way to counter Dr. Boom. Because if you do... You can't attack Sylvanas because the Defrauder will just get the minion back.
Yeah, this is looking like the play he's going for. I think it's a very good one. And like you said, it does help him deal with the Dr. Boom come next turn. He's probably not expecting it, to be honest. But at least this Sylvanas will have an opportunity to steal something and just help him sustain a little bit more. But oh, there's the Owl.
Oh, but the Owl will actually make the Sylvanas back to 5/5.
Yeah, that might be not worth doing, to be honest.
And also, if you Owl Sylvanas now, you'll have to play Doomguard, I believe. Like, you can't play Boom. If you play Boom, you lose Boom because he just attacks with the weapon. Oh, actually, there is a small chance that the bomb will kill Sylvanas and the Sylvanas will kill the bomb, but I'm not sure if you can take this risk. Such an awkward situation for Reynad right now. Maybe do you tap? Like, you have time.
I mean, he's at 28 health. He taps, he goes down to 26. Paladin's not going to burst you down out of nowhere. So it might give him an opportunity to just play a smaller minion, which Sylvanas might feel a bit desperate to get rid of. And then he has a safer Dr. Boom to follow up, but he needs to... It's very high risk playing this Dr. Boom right now.
I think I like the tap because if you... he got a minion he can play. Not very interesting minion, but oh, he's going for Doomguard. If he goes for Iron Beak now, silences Sylvanas, he can even play the Abusive Surgeon, and next turn he can play Boom, and he knows that next turn there is no Tyrion, the Tyrion will come after Boom, if there is a Tyrion. If he goes for Doomguard, there is a chance that he will not, like, Doomguard will get stolen by Sylvanas, so it's not doing anything. So I think that was a great play. What do you think about not playing the Abusive Surgeon?
I think he should have played it because he needed the True Silver. He needed Sylvanas to hit something, I think. But I think Taeng can actually come back here. Probably, he's got an anti-kill, but he's got the heal. He's got a Quartermaster, so he can start to generate some tokens, and then he's got a Tyrion, so he's got a lot of the late game stuff. And the problem with Reynad's kind of late game here is that he may end up discarding one piece of it. So yeah, it's interesting.
I think double Doomguard is actually Reynad's signature move. I heard him talking about it a lot.
Signature double Doomguard, yeah. That's not what you want to have as your signature move as a Zoo player, really.
Oh, he played Quartermaster before making a token. That's a very interesting play.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, mistakes were made.
They were, oh man.
The first time in competitive. All right, I'm just speechless. Well, okay, I can only say that this is stress. Like, and I think he actually wanted to play anti-kilo.
Oh, you think? You think he misclicked the actual
I think he actually misclicked the card. Because anti-kill was definitely a valid play here, and he wanted to play anti-kill. He just took Quartermaster.
Okay. Well, so, I don't think he's out of the game just yet. I mean, he just got his own Dr. Boom, and he can clear up this Dr. Boom with Sylvanas and the Quartermaster. Get rid of a bomb as well, and just play his own Dr. Boom, and he's not in any threat.
Oh yeah, certainly. He's actually in good position. He still has the anti-kill bot that he didn't play. But I have to say, like, this was the most awkward moment I've seen in the competitive play ever.
Or playing it, what? Picking the wrong card, yeah, it's pretty rough. I mean, especially with so many viewers as well. I mean, he's got to look past it now, not let it affect his confidence, and just think, all right, it happens, mistakes happen, just carry on playing. I'm in a good position. Yeah.
Oh man, he's taking the gamble here. He is going for the boom, and he will go for a bomb. And then if bomb hits face, Doomguard is possible 7 damage with Abusive Surgeon.
Is he going for the other boom? Yeah.
Alright, so Reynad not there yet, but it's definitely getting close. This was his turn, but he's not going to steal the game right now. And then we will have Tyrion and the heal bot, so it seems that Taeng is actually climbing back. And think how crazy it will be if Taeng actually wins a game where he plays Quartermaster and then Rainforce.
Maybe this is just some high-level BM we've never witnessed before. Maybe this is high-level Korean BM. He's just like, oh, I'll make a mistake on purpose.
Like, look at Reynad right now. Reynad is thinking, am I actually losing to a person who played Quartermaster and then use hero power?
The thing is, if you look at Reynad's hand here, a lot of the targets that could be discarded from Doomguard are very low value now. I mean, you could potentially risk it if you want, but or you could even tap first and maybe draw another 1-drop, 2-drop. But yeah, he seems a bit puzzled about what to do here.
Maybe Reynad is waiting till turn 10 when he can play double Doomguard.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he's playing. Okay, so he values this Voidwalker.
And there is the first Doomguard discarding Doomguard. So
Reynad's actually lost 2 Doomguards now, a Dr. Boom and a Sylvanas.
Yeah.
Surely that is all the late game threat he has.
Well, he can still have Power Overwhelming, and I'm sure he's running 2 because he was having Void Terror, and
yeah.
So he still has Sunburst, and but then again he is losing this board. How do you clear this board and stay alive? I think True Silver and an anti-kill bot is definitely very decent.
I mean, you can get rid of the Doomguard there, still keep his Dr. Boom alive with 1 health, which is fine because it's done its job then, it's help you live another turn, and then after that he's just got Tyrion coming down and Reynad's tapping.
Can you somehow protect the boom? Oh, he's just going for Tyrion. I guess why not?
Let me think.
If there is an Iron Big Owl.
I mean, he'd need to like draw Iron Beak Owl, then tap into Power Overwhelming to win. right?
Which is actually possible. So that's why I favor True Silver and anti-Cuba.
If he runs 2 Iron Beak Owls, that is. He may only run 1. I mean, he's got Sylvanas in there and he's got Dr. Boom. Like, where are these slots? What's he taking out for these things?
You know what I really like? I like Dr. Boom going for face here. So you kill the Void Walker with the weapon. You play the heal bot and you go for face for 8.
Oh, so you put him on the clock then. He's tapping. He's trying to make a comeback from just tapping. Oh, there's the overwhelming. Oh, there's no out.
Oh, that's a flame him. You never want to see flame him when you're behind. Reynad behind on board with the power overwhelming.
Man, this consecration is gonna slam down. Probably play the Black Knight as well for more board.
I actually like Tyrion here. But then it's fine still. Like, he's building up his board.
And Tyrion's most certainly going to close out the game here, I think, next turn. If he can't...
Taeng is playing super safe. And for now, it's paying off. Like, he sealed the game, I think. Like, Reynad is in a very bad spot. There is a void.
So Reynad just concedes. He doesn't see a way out here. And Taeng's actually going to see that Paladin take a win. So the Paladin's done its job. Maybe this Druid and Mage could be the one, but Zoo is just one of those decks that can just snowball out of control so quickly and so early, especially if you've got nothing in your hand that can respond to it developing such a huge board early on.
I'm really curious to see like how the Zoo works exactly, because we've seen a couple of builds, and we've seen Orange, I believe, playing the Sea Giant Zoo, because right now, we got Gang Boss and people are experimenting with it. So Sea Giant is one route you can take, and Reynad is taking another one with the Void Terrors and the power of Wormling. I really wonder how this deck does versus Warrior, because Warrior Zoo is a good matchup for Zoo originally. And even though Implosion is not a great card versus Warrior, you still have a lot of Defraudal cards. You have the Doom Guards. You can push the board, and Warrior struggles at some point, like, because there's so many waves of minions. You can brawl only once, and you don't try to remove on a key moment, and you're dead.
Exactly, yeah. But I don't. Well, that's not going to really be a problem for Taeng though, because he's got Druid and Mage left. But anyway, we're going to take it to a quick break. We'll be back with the rest of this game. It's 2-1 to Reynad, so we'll be back very shortly.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hearthstone Gfinity Spring Masters 2. I am Nimsh, and I'm joined by Aquablood. We're casting Reynad versus Taeng. Reynad is actually leading the match 2-1, but Taeng took the first game for himself with his Paladin deck.
Yeah, and he also made a little bit of a mistake, which we all were a bit confused about at first, but I think he was so far ahead at that point that it didn't matter. He managed to keep his cool, keep his composure, and seal that game. But now we have his two other decks, which we have no idea what they are yet. We just know they're Druid and Mage. So we'll be interested to see what Korea brings to the table with these two classes.
Well, I assume it can be something really surprising, but I'm leaning more into the cookie cutters.
Yeah, we're probably going to see a fast Druid. The Mage is probably the big question mark because Mage has a lot of viable decks right now. Mech Mage, Tempo Mage, Freeze Mage. So that's going to be the interesting deck from Taeng's lineup. So I'd like to see that next, to be honest.
So the big question is, how much salt will Reynad produce if he loses this match?
Wow, as we were discussing, this is Reynad's deck. This is his signature deck, what he's famous for. If he was to lose now with Zoo to Taeng, he would have lost 3 games of it in a row. That would be tough. And you could put down the first game definitely to the double Doom Guard in his hand, but he still managed to do all right. So we'll have to see. I think we're going into the next game right now.
Oh man, the Mech Mage has been dropped.
So nothing too exciting, but you never know. There's quite a few variations.
Oh, come on! It's a very exciting deck. You just play the minions and they interact with each other. Like Cog Master, for example, he can fix everything.
That's true, and this is what we want from Hearthstone, isn't it? Minion interaction, board interaction. So this hand is looking. This hand's looking all right. He's got
It looks perfect. He has the coin. He has Mad Scientist. And now he got Sure as well. Like, the only card I would switch here, maybe having a Spider Taeng, I don't know.
And when he goes straight back into that Goblin Blast Mage. And he's got the mechs to back it up, but before in his mulligan, he only had the one mech sitting there. And this deck, in the past, I've seen suffers from the Goblins and Gnomes syndrome, where it just draws lots of Goblins, lots of Gnomes, no mechs, and he's not going to have that problem just yet.
To do.
Well, he does that Mad Scientist, so it's looking good for the opening hand for Reynad.
Speaking of clunky hands.
Well, he does have a 2-drop and a 3-drop, come on.
Yeah, but we still see the Sylvanas and Doomguard. He probably wants something else, something a bit better than that. But this is Zoo. This is a Zoo variation, so it's very easy for this deck to find its curve with its hero power and by just drawing into the lower stuff. But we still have a few things to see from Reynad's deck. Yeah, you may have some more interesting cards in there.
Like double Doomguard.
Like double Doomguard.
A very interesting play by Reynad here. If Taeng actually misclicks an attack into the Nerubian egg, it will produce a 4/4.
It will indeed. So what would you play here? Do you want the Scientist to start setting up the Mirror Entity shenanigans, or do you want to get some more mechs down?
I like Scientist, because even if you don't feel like you're going to use the Mirror Entity, because you're playing versus Zoo, so you can get something small like Haunted Creeper or a Flame Imp. Actually, those cards are still good. But you want to filter your deck. Like, you don't want to draw into that Mirror Entity. You want to get something else.
And this Snow Chugger will be quite useful next turn if he doesn't, say, draw a Spider Tank, because it does still potentially set up that Blast Mage for the next turn if you want to. But then the Ruby Egg's going to create some trouble for that.
Whoa, a Meg Warper, come on.
Taeng's drawing what he needs here, so he gets 2 mechs instead of 1.
Taeng is an excellent Mech Mage player.
He's probably one of the best Mech Mage players I've ever seen, to be honest. Like, I never draw this stuff. I'm always really fighting to get my board developed.
It's also so important because he will be able to play Blast Mage, and he will certainly have a mech. Right now, he can just close his eyes and go for face. Like, is there any way to trade in the deck? Gang Boss?
I wouldn't bother unless you can take him out in 1 clean hit, because you're just developing more problems for your mechs. So you want to keep these mechs alive as much as possible. So just go and face here. It's probably the best option.
But then there's Defender Vargas for Reynad, and then Nerubian Egg will start kicking and biting, maybe even hatch at some point. So this is the exact board state where we can see the power of Imp Gangabaus. Like, you know, being a big minion and spawning those 1/1s.
The thing is, the Nerubian Egg, now it's been activated by Argus, is going to pop eventually. So it does make the Blast Mage a little bit better because he doesn't have the randomness of it hitting, say, the egg when it was at 2 and spawning it. Because now it's activated anyway, so unless he can silence it, which Mech Mage generally don't run, he's going to have to deal with it eventually. So maybe Blast Mage is good here, and he can clear up the Imp boss with the Cogmaster.
Yeah, you attack first, and then you play Blast Mage.
So he's got a good turn here.
Still, Zoo is fighting back. Like, Reynad built up a board. Right now, Mech Mage is forced to trade. So eventually, Zoo can actually overpower Mech Mage, even though Reynad dropped to 18 points of health.
And we don't see any fireballs. We do see a frostbolt, but we don't see any fireballs coming out yet.
Not yet, but I'm sure the fireballs are somewhere there. Not in range stick, though.
I bet he was hoping he would hit the 2-1-1s there.
A little unfortunate. So another question is, do you continue with your onslaught? I think you do kill the minions, because I would not expect... I would actually, I think, attack the 1-1 with the Mad Scientist and try to keep it, unless he is expecting something big and he wanted the Mirror Entity.
And yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you could have kept both minions alive then. So, and it's all about board at the end of the day. So if you can get 2 for 1 for these minions, it's always worth going that route.
Well, this will force Reynad to play into Abuser Surgeon. This is surely Mirror Entity.
Yeah, I think, wasn't Tiddler running Counterspell via game, I think?
I think it's very smart, like running one secret that's not a Mirror Entity.
Because once you know how these decks are built, you can very much predict what secrets are going to come out, especially with Mech Mage, because all of them are Mirror Entity. So if you just switch one in, it catches people by surprise. And yesterday, Krober got caught very much by surprise with that Doomsayer in the matchup against Zosus. So
that warrior deck from Krober, I really want to see more of it. Hogger, Doomsayer,
Bouncing Blades.
Yeah, Korkron.
Faceless Manipulator.
Yeah, we can just go on with those cards. But looking at the board right now, I think one of the best ways here is go for face.
You don't want to take out this this 3-4 just in case it brings out a Doomguard or anything else is scary. So definitely just go with the game plan of going for face. I mean, you could even cloak your 4-3 if you want, if you want to play more aggressively.
I think that's a valid play. You want to keep the Void Caller alive because it looks cool, and you want to have it on board.
Exactly, and you do well.
Nothing is better.
It's
than
not
winning.
cool when its Death Rattle comes off.
Oh yeah, and it actually can work now because there is a demon in Reynad's hand.
So he freezes it up, so it's not going to be doing much for another turn.
And he just used his stealth last turn.
Ah no,
that's so upsetting.
He does have to Frostbolt for turn 9, but that's a while away, yeah.
I think here you just go for face with, like, you deal 4, you play another Pilot Shredder, and you ping face as well. Like, you have to draw into the Fireball.
I mean, the safety here is Sylvanas won't Death Rattle unless he gets a Power Overwhelming or something, or a Mortal Coil if he's running it. So he doesn't have to worry about that Death Rattle right now. So yeah, you definitely just go for face and play really aggressive.
So 1 damage to face will leave Reynad at 11. Frostbolt.
So if he draws a Fireball here, it's going to be a lot of trouble.
But Reynad...
another Defender of Argus. That's a big draw.
That's really, really powerful. But then again, he has Dr. Boom and it's green, so you want to play it.
It's turn 7, you've got Boom. You're just going to want to do it, like you said. You want those little Boom Balls. But then again, a 6/6 Sylvanas. That's with Taunt.
Yeah,
that's excellent. Like you can't ask for anything better than
Defender of Argus. Well, you can't play Boom because then you lose. If there is a Fireball, you lose. Like essentially, if you kill one of the minions with Sylvanas, well, first you can always see what the minion is. But one of the Shredders will survive and will deal 4 damage to you, so you're at 7. With Hero Power, you're essentially at 6. Fireball kills you. If the minion that drops from the Shredder has free attack, then even Frostball kills you.
Yeah, it's a tough turn. I mean, if he decided to leave these alive and just have the 6/6, at least he couldn't ping it. You would have to trade both Shredders in without a Frostbolt, but you can't risk it at this point. That's the problem. Only actually gets a Taunt on the Ink Gang boss, so he's going to generate a few more minions from this. Reynad's starting to look quite decent, unless Taeng gets some really good top decks.
All right, so what do you do here? Do you... That's that's a crazy board from Reynad.
Yeah,
So
it's
much
really
to
hard.
throttle, so much power. You know, like, you can't even kill the gang boss in one go. Like, just Defender of Argus and Imp gang boss is proving to be super good for Reynad. And it's the second time he did this in the same game.
The thing is, he's going to get a minion here regardless. Even if he runs the pile to shred into the ink gang bottom pings it, he gets 2 1/1s and then he drops whatever minion he drops. And even if he trades into the Sylvanas, he'll take that minion. So if it's a Doomsayer, that's excellent. But other than that, it's looking pretty tough.
How many times people are looking for the Doomsayer? Like, everybody wants to see the Doomsayer.
It's actually a viable thing in a match. Like, if I get Doomsayer, I win. There is a possibility. This is Hearthstone.
I've seen Forsen get a Doomsayer from his opposing Pilot Shredder. Forsen had this amazing play. He innervated Torisan, then he did something else, and then he attacked the Pilot Shredder, and his opponent got a Doomsayer. And then Forsen gave me a look, and then lost.
Okay, so
A Juggler.
fits right at home there in Zoo. He just pings it. So this is looking good for Reynad all of a sudden.
I think I will ping Phase actually, because if I ping Phase and I draw Fireball, that's lethal.
So that's 3 knives from Dr. Boom as well. And you're most certainly going to play it here.
Oh yeah, you definitely do it.
Oh, he's hoping to hit that shield, I imagine.
Can Reynad have a lethal situation? Oh, that's Thunder Reynad. Oh my god. Well, Reynad, that juggler wasn't yours. You stole it.
I don't think I've ever seen someone look so disappointed at Dr. Boom hitting their own board. Absolute disappointment from Reynad's face there.
Yeah, the salt is real. And the juggler really trolled him. Well,
he's still looking good. Like, he can't complain about that.
yeah, but he doesn't have lethal next turn, so it gives Mage 2 turns to win the game. 2 turns to top deck a Fireball. Reynad's so disappointed about this. Like, why? Why is this
Why
happening
me?
to me? Like, he doesn't even get a knife from the gang boss now.
Alright, so he's going to generate that extra token here. Doesn't get the knife to use the knife juggler.
Somehow, ping into the juggler actually paid off now.
That's not what you wanted to see.
Well, there is a Spider Taeng. I think what you have to do... Do you just play Antonidas as the body on board?
I don't think so.
Spider Taeng and ping Face.
Yeah, you need a top deck Fireball to win, so you have to set up for that play. For that top deck, otherwise you're just going to lose.
So how much damage is there incoming? This is 9, 11, 15, 18 points of damage. Reynad needs 6 points of damage to win.
So he needs 2 Power Overwhelming, so he needs to draw the Power Overwhelm off the top, and then he needs to tap into it.
Or Power Overwhelming Doomguard, and if there's a minion on board, he can actually attack with the minion into the minion, kill it, make space.
Is it actually safer not to play a minion here?
Yeah, but then you're only saved by the Fireball top deck.
But
and
can you win otherwise?
If you play Spider Taeng, it doesn't change anything, so not playing a minion is actually a play.
Because if he plays Spider Taeng, he opens it up for a Boombot to hit into it and him hit face, and then he can play like a Doomguard or something. So if he doesn't play anything, it's actually better.
Yeah, that's actually crazy. Like, not doing anything this turn is probably the best play, or no play.
Yeah, he goes for it.
He's fishing for a Fireball. If Fireball top deck is going to win the game for Taeng, if he doesn't get a Fireball, he's in a very bad spot. Even a Flame Strike doesn't help. So this is do or die. That's not a Fireball, so Reynad is going to win the game with his Zoo and win the series versus Taeng 3-1.
I mean, he was living on a prayer there. He needed 1 card. We don't know how many cards he's got left in his deck, but I imagine it's within the 15 range. So yeah, he was clutching at straws for that win, but Reynad takes it, going 3-1 against Taeng.
Oh man, using that stealth on a Pilot Shredder and then getting Antonidas was surely painful.
Exactly, because he would have had that Fireball he needed if he had played that turn 8, so maybe that was the deciding part of the game.
So this marks Reynad advancing to play Life Coach for the winners final of this group. And Taeng is not eliminated yet. He will play versus Bonnie Muffin.
Bonnie Muffin, yeah.
And the winner will play versus the loser of Reynad and Life Coach. What an amazing match. Like, we haven't seen one deck. We haven't seen Druid from Taeng. Maybe we'll actually see Druid in the next match. But wow, Reynad's doing good. And now Reynad versus Life Coach. That would be an amazing match to see. That's
going to be an incredible match. And looking at Reynad's decks and now seeing Life Coach's decks, it's going to be very interesting because Life Coach has brought a very control-heavy lineup.
Greedy, very greedy decks.
And Reynad's decks are quite aggressive in comparison. So it's going to be the aggro versus control kind of battle is going to be a very good match.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so who do you think has an edge, actually, like Reynad or Life Coach?
From his recent performances, I would say Life Coach. Because he's just been in top form recently. He's just been dominating online tournaments. And yeah, he's just an exceptional player, very smart. Takes a long time, as we know. He's gained quite a reputation for the time he takes to do his turns. But it is a quality of his. He takes that time. He makes every decision based on the information he gathers from that time.
All right, that will wrap up the game on our side. Let's see what the analysts have to say about this match.
Thanks so much, Nim Shinakwa. And that wraps up our third series. We're halfway done. What a volatile series that was. That was 3-1, but man, there was a lot of heartache if you're rooting for Taeng. Admirable, let's start off with you. You have a lot of words to say about that series.
Yeah, Taeng is, you know, at some point in this series, you know, we talked a lot about fatigue maybe being an issue in this one. And what it seemed to me is that his indecisiveness is really putting him into some awkward positions here because his game plan is he's shifting it for I don't know what reasons, honestly. It's tough to look at these games and figure out why he's shifting his game plan. Where at some points he'll be aggressive, and then he'll take a very defensive node, and then, you know, maybe he kind of is seeing that he's like, I'm being a little bit indecisive, and then, of course, there's like a blunder happened.
Right, the quartermaster without actually buffing the thing.
It's like watching it, his indecisiveness is costing him so much in terms of his game plan moving forward, and I feel like it's giving him some positions where normally he'd be very, very favored in the positions he would be getting into, and instead is almost falling behind at points.
Definitely, I have to agree with that. The thing is, like, sometimes you're playing a 20-round game, and you're trading non-stop to fight for board control, and you don't realize that you actually, you're close to lethal. Maybe this time you could get lethal next turn and set it up. So you just get so, focused on, I suppose, just going for that, and you don't shift gears. So I think it's very important to have a game plan going. Yeah.
That's right. So taking a look at a moment of the series, this was something that you wanted to talk about, Kaldi. So why don't you break down this important moment?
So in
running blank there, the freeze mage versus the paladin. This was game number 1, and well, I guess what happened was eventually Reynad just got like the right combo, and it's like at that point. There was just too much. Is this the point where you have to seize control as the paladin? Like, why is not flooding the board? Like, talk to me, Admirable, about what's going on here.
Well, I mean, the way you're going to beat this matchup is obviously you're not going to be able to grind him out. Like, one of the biggest things he's going to do is he's going to draw a bunch of cards, keep control over his life total, Alex Strauss you, and then try to burn you out of the game. So you have to just apply a ton of aggression at this point and kind of throw caution to the wind and just hope that things work out really well for you.
Right. I think this is probably the beginning point to show that Taeng looks a little bit shaky in his play. Like, Pilot Shredder is what you want to do, but all these kinds of moments of indecisiveness was really difficult for him to try to figure out the right play. And it kind of ended up wavering, like you said, where sometimes he was being really aggressive, and then sometimes just like over trading. I think it was capitalized or underlined rather, especially in that last game, the Mech Mage versus the Mech Mage versus the Warlock. There's another moment that we wanted to pick out too with the Paladin versus the Hunter game, where that was one of the most passive ways to just lay down and let the lion eat the prey. That was exactly what happened. He just did nothing. He kept hero powering when he had stuff to do and just fell super far behind on board.
There was a point, at least, with the Altor there, where he was turn 3. He had a Mad Scientist on board, and he decided to go for the hero power with the Altor. I mean, Altor generally, I guess, against Druid, etc., you want to, like, shut down a 5-drop, but against Phase Hunter, you have to play it on curve, because if you turn 6 or 7 when you have 10 health and you have 8 cards in hand, it doesn't do you any good. So you really have to play really aggressively against Hunter. Like, value doesn't matter, and I think that's definitely a point to bring up there.
Yeah, like if you take a look at the way this turn is going to roll out, like you have no choice here. This is obviously a hero power, but it's his next turn what really comes into a question. Like if you don't draw something like a Shielded Manibot or a Zombie Chow or even a Knife Juggler, you don't really have another option other than the Aldor Peacekeeper.
Right.
And so he ends up choosing to hero power in this position.
He played for value.
Right.
Which is like something you can't necessarily afford to do here.
Right. Like you tend to take a look at what he's doing. He's hovering over the Dr. Boom. He's trying to signal to his opponent, like, maybe I have some other options. Maybe to play a little bit of mind games here. But when you go into this Aldor Peacekeeper turn and you choose the token instead of play Aldor Peacekeeper, against Hunter, you don't often have a lot of high priority targets unless you're playing against something like Savannah Hyman. So he may have chosen to go with sort of a cautious turn there instead of going with the Aldor Peacekeeper, but you're basically paying 1 mana for +2/+2 on a minion when you play Aldor Peacekeeper there, and you're also reducing the Mad Scientist attack by 1.
I think a thing to consider when you're playing against Hunter is drawing the 1 and 2 drops are just absolutely crucial. And that if you don't get a 1 drop or a 2 drop, you're way far behind. But you need to also play incredibly aggressive. Go face with the True Silver, like. Just really get the cards out as fast as possible in whatever manner. Like, it doesn't matter if it's for the maximum value, like you play in many other situations. You just get damage on the board and get minions on the board fast.
Yeah, that's right. And as a result, that Aldor Peacekeeper never left the hand. It was just like all game, and it could have been doing 3 damage per turn for about 3 or 4 turns, and that could have been the difference maker. Taking a look at the third game, the Warlock Zoo versus the Paladin. We're taking a look here on turn 4. Is there anything specifically happening here that speaks to you guys?
Well, this turn was pretty straightforward. I mean, this is looking like Implosion, but sort of going forward, it was difficult to identify what kinds of turns he should be using Doomguard on and what turns should he be saving Doomguard and really pushing forward. And the most critical position I feel like he got into this game was sort of later down the line. This wasn't the exact turn, but this is really where it started. Like, pretty much every single turn going forward after this one, there was an argument for playing Doomguard. And finding the right spot to play that Doomguard afterwards was really where the fine line was being walked.
How is it influenced by the second Doomguard, though, in this case? Like, do you want to maximize both value, or do you just need the pressure on board and just, like, say, screw it, sorry, second Doomguard? Sorry, my twin, I'm doing this alone.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's really hard. It's kind of like having 2 hooks in the hand. Like, you can't get value out of both of them. So it depends a bit, like, on... actually, I guess you don't want to lose the Dr. Boom, I think, was the main issue with that.
Yeah, this is really where one of the biggest turns came up, and this was excellently played by Taeng here. Able to take this Sylvanas on his own after Reynad was forced to respond to Sylvanas with Sylvanas. Right. And this is really where a big turn came in, is like Doomguard here is apparently very awful, but the question is, if you play the Ironbeak Owl instead, does Doomguard become a good play? What are the chances that my opponent's going to take Dr. Boom if I play Dr. Boom here? Like, this was the most difficult turn of the game, I think, for Reynad.
Do I save this for inevitable Tyrion, which is going to be like a wall that I can't get past? My opponent did have Tyrion, but he didn't even play Tyrion. He played Dr. Boom instead and Healbot, and, of course, the Quartermaster infamously without the actual Silver Hand Recruit. That game was wild, but it was a very difficult turn. You can go back and analyze it, but in the end, do you think just tapping and playing the owl there was the best move?
I think in that case, like, there's a lot of plays and none of them is good, objectively compared to the turn. But I think the least awful is going for the awful. Yeah, exactly. I mean, every play is really painful and not a lot of value. But I think the best one would be to just go for the Dr. Boom and hope the bomb hits, and you get that possibility of. But it's really rough.
I mean, he had bots maybe hitting the face. He did draw the Abusive Sergeant because you can't necessarily look at that. But he maybe would have had opportunity to play the Doomguard, buff a little bit, go for that game-ending damage.
Yeah, he can like tap. Maybe have 3 small minions and 2 Doomguards, and maybe then it's a 1 in 3 that it'll get.
Who knows?
Yeah,
who knows? Although it ended up being okay, though, because that Mech Mage versus Warlock game, let's just briefly talk about it. Way too many trades. Just way too many trades from the Mech Mage. There's so many times he could have pressured. And even then, when he was done pressuring, there were moments where he needed to play for his outs. He wasn't pinging for the opportunity to draw a Fireball in the game. Instead, he was pinging the Knife Juggler, which it is a threat, considering how many minions can be played out of a hand of a zoo, but I mean, it's not considering that you're throwing away your opportunity to win the game.
Yeah, indecisiveness really being probably the most crucial in this game out of all of them. And going into the last turn, the situation you were speaking of specifically, where Taeng chose to ping a Knife Juggler instead of pinging Reynad's face, who was at 11 at the time, I believe it was, and he had a Frostbolt in hand. So he needed to draw a Fireball and be able to Frostbolt, Fireball, and ping Reynad to deal a 10th point of damage. The board had basically snowballed out of control at this point. There was no recovery option. Pinging Knife Juggler all it did was take away one of your turns of being able to draw your out that turn and do something effective with it. So the recovery in this position is not feasible, and he's just giving up this point of damage.
You're not going to be able to. There's no flame strike.
Right.
There's no frost nova.
If Reynad has 2
you know?
turns lethal at the turn you've chosen to ping this knife juggler, and then you draw fireball, you now do not have the damage to kill your opponent if Reynad had a 2-turn lethal, and it literally could have been the difference in winning and losing the game.
Absolutely, and I think in Mechmate versus Shu, you are faster in the early game, but you're very slow in the mid game as the Mechmate. So you have to get ahead in the early game with the Mech Warper, and then you just have to go phase, and finish off with fireballs and pings, because there's no heal in Sul, obviously. So I think that's definitely the case. He got ahead in the early game. He started fall behind in the mid game as is normal, but he didn't, push for phase and lethal, which really cost him the game, I think.
So, well, I think that's a really good example of how some of the qualified players, you were bringing this up, when they're new to the tournament stage, they tend to be a little bit too conservative, sometimes making indecisive moves, and as a result, ends up playing a little bit off their game. And I think Taeng, maybe he can get that just swept under the rug. I mean, it's a new series that he'll be playing the losers bracket, but in the winners portion of Group C, we're going to have Reynad playing up against Life Coach. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, more action here from Gfinity Spring Cup number 2.